In this tutorial, we will learn how to add multiple textures on multiple parts of an object by using multiple UV maps and multiple materials. For example, in this scene, you can see that we have created two UV maps for this single object to create two different textured materials. As a prerequisite, you should have some basic knowledge about UV maps and UV editor before you start with this. If not, you can refer to our foundation level tutorial on UV editing where we have discussed the basics of UV maps. The links are given in the video description. Let us now learn how to use multiple UV maps for a single object. So here is our model, which is a twisted ribbon with two sides. We want to apply two different pictures or two textures on these two sides by using two different UV maps. For this, we have collected two pictures of some cute pandas. We want to apply these textures on the two sides of our ribbon. We won't combine the pictures, we'll use a better technique. But before we do anything, we have to ensure that there is no pending transforms in the rotation and the scales. So select the object and go to the Object menu, then under Apply, apply the rotation and scales. This will reset the rotation and the scale factors for the object. Now for the ribbon, please go to this tab called Object Data Properties. Under UV Maps, we can see that Blender has created a default UV map when we created the object. We want to apply two different textures on the two sides of this object. That means we need to create two separate UV maps here. So click on this plus button to create one more UV map. Let us rename this to UV Map 1. And similarly, let us call this second one as UV Map 2. Now, we'll turn on the Material View mode. And we have to go to the UV editor. So, let us split this screen like this. And open UV editor on this side. And on this side, we have to go to the Edit mode. Deselect everything and turn on the Face Selection mode. We will unwrap this particular side into one single UV map. So, select the first UV map from this list. Then we have to load the texture, so go to the Image menu, and open the first texture, or the picture that we want to use. Now, we have to select all the faces over here. Let us start with the four rectangles at the center. We'll then increase the selection gradually by pressing Ctrl and the plus key to include all the faces that appear on this side. We are just using the shortcut key for more selection, which appears here in the menu. With all these faces now selected, go to the UV menu and select Unwrap. So the selected faces will be unwrapped like this in the UV editor. You can then select all the points and resize them to fill the texture or the target image or do any kind of UV editing. Let us turn on the 2D cursor option. We can then press S and then X to lock the transform in the X-axis and resize the UV map horizontally. We have already discussed these UV editing tools in length in our previous tutorial. So we have now prepared the UV map perfectly for one side of our twisted ribbon. But we have to create a suitable material for this, so go to the Materials tab. We have this default material added by Blender. Please click on this base color node and select Image Texture. Then from this drop-down list, select the particular image that we have used for the unwrapping part. This is going to be our first material, so click on the Assign button to lock this material. Similarly, we'll do the same for the other side and create the second texture on a separate UV map. So, go to the Object Data Properties and under the UV Maps, select the second UV map in the UV map list. Now, we have to load the second texture. So like before, let us open our second image file. Next, we have to select all the faces here in the same way as before. We'll use the Select More tool. You can use any suitable selection tool for your particular model to select the target faces. Then go to the UV menu and select Unwrap. Once the UV is unwrapped, you can select all and do the necessary adjustment, like scaling or rotation, as may be required for your case. Our UV map is ready, so go to the Materials tab. As of now, our model has got only one material, so add one more material slot in this material list, and then create a new material. Let us call this first material as Material 1. And this second one, we can rename this to Material 2. Like before in the base color, please select Image Texture. And here, we have to select the second image file. To see the effect, we have to assign the material for the selected faces, and it will display the second texture, but the orientation is not correct, because the UV map is not yet connected to the material. We'll now fix it. So let us open the shader editor on this side. If you are not already familiar with shader editor, you can refer to our foundation level tutorials, given in the video description. We'll first work with this side of the ribbon, so select Material 1 in this material list. We have one image texture node and a principled BSDF. Now go to the Add menu, and from the Input group, add one UV map node, and place it before the image texture node. Then, in this UV map list, please select UV map 1, because we are working with material 1. Now connect its output to the vector input of the image texture node. You may not see any change because it was already correct. And for this backside, please select the second material. Like before, we have an image texture node and a principled BSDF. Now, add one UV map node for this material as well. But this time, we'll select the second UV map for this node. Now connect the output to the vector input. So we get the correct texture, but it is upside down, so we have to rectify the UV mapping to the texture. Let us go to the Add menu, and under Vector, we have to add a mapping node, and place it in between these two. Now, simply change this Z rotation field to 180 degrees. And the texture will display perfectly on this side. So we are done with both sides of the twisted ribbon. Let us close the UV editor. We can now go back to the object mode. So this is our final product. We have applied two different textures on two sides of our ribbon. We have two materials here. And we have also created two UV maps for the two parts of the same object. Each of them is responsible for one separate picture or a texture. This way, you can create multiple UV maps for your object and use any mix of textures easily for some complex design. I hope you like this tutorial. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel.